All right, guys, I'm back with chapter 3, Lily to the Rescue, two little piggies. Remember at the end of chapter 2, they were still trying to catch the piggies, Maggie, Rose, and her family. And Lily was worried about what had happened to these little piggies that were sisters. Chapter 3. The two pigs were staring at me, and I was staring at them. I was wagging as I drew near, being very friendly. They were not wagging. But that didn't mean anything. Casey is a very friendly crow, but he's never wagged a tail, not even when Maggie Rose feeds him a peanut. I decided that they had so much energy I could risk a little movement. I bowed, and then I jumped up and then bowed again. The two animals understood me. They knew that bowing meant playtime. They surged out from underneath that shirt and leaped on me, squealing and then running around in tight circles. They wanted to play chase me. I love chase me whether there's a ball involved or not. I decided that the pigs should run after me first. I turned and galloped down in front of some cold glass doors, my feet skittering a little bit on the slick floor. "Good dog, Lily," I heard Mom call. The little creatures came after me. They were fast. I sped up around the corner, looking back over my shoulder. They were both scampering after me at top speed. I turned another corner, sliding precariously, almost falling, and found myself running right toward Mom and Maggie Rose and her brothers. They were all kneeling. I practically crashed into Craig, my claws scrabbling for purchase. A moment later, the two pigs came charging around the corner after me, and when they spotted everyone on their knees, they tried to stop, but they were sliding just as I had done, and they couldn't help but skid straight into the arms of Mom, Craig, and Brian. The pigs were not happy and were twisting and squealing, but the boys and Mom had their arms wrapped around them and hugged them tightly. "Good job," the man said. "We'll be right back to help you put your displays up," Craig said. Maggie Rose grabbed my collar. We all went back out in the sunshine. Mom put the little creatures into a cage in the very back of the truck. "Good dog," Maggie Rose praised. "You're a good rescue dog today, Lily." We sat in the truck with the pigs in the back while Craig and Brian returned to the cool building again and came out a little while later with sweet-smelling candies in their hands. They gave one to Maggie Rose, but didn't offer any to me because dogs aren't allowed to eat that kind of thing. My girl gave me a chicken treat, which is better anyway. On the way home, the little animals were very anxious at first, darting back and forth in their cage. After a while, they collapsed in a heap in the corner of the cage, exhausted. "How old are the pigs, Mom?" Brian asked. "It's hard to say," Mom replied, "but I doubt that they can be on their own yet. We'll have to bottle feed them." "Do we have pig's milk to feed them?" Craig asked. "No," Mom admitted, "but we have goat's milk. Goat's milk has a lot of fat in it, and that's what these little girls need right now." I twisted around to put my paws on the back of the seat, peering into the cage at the two little pigs sleeping in their heap, their small chests rising and falling together. I breathed their scents deeply, drinking them in, learning pig. From now on, this odor would be known to me as the smell of pigs. But there was more to them than that. There was another odor, a complex one on their skin. I'd first noticed this strong smell when I'd followed my family into the cool building. It was pig, just like the little sisters, but with a stronger, oily odor, one that was also touched with the faint smell of what was definitely milk. At some time, not long ago, these two pigs had been very close to a bigger, older, milky pig. The pigs were still asleep when Mom carried their cage into work. Work is a place with a lot of animals inside it. Other dogs, cats, birds, sometimes squirrels. Now work had two pigs. That was exciting. I sat in the car with Maggie Rose and the boys, wagging hard and hoping I'd get to go into work with the pigs and Mom. Lots of times I do get to go there, but not now. Mom came back into the car without the cage or the pigs, and we drove home. We got out of the car and I saw Casey sitting on the fence watching us. Ree, Lily croaked. Sorry, Casey croaked. Casey can make noises that sound like talking. And Ree is often what he says when he sees me, as if he's saying Lily. I wagged at him. He probably was wondering when we were going to play some ball some more. I was too. We didn't do that though. The boys rode off on their bicycles, and Maggie Rose sat on the living room floor to play with her Legos. Legos are not very interesting toys because I'm not allowed to chew them. That isn't to say I don't try every so often, but it makes my girl sad, so I try to remember to leave the Legos alone and attack one of my other toys instead. I decided to see what Mom was doing, so I went into the dining room. She was sitting at the table there, looking at her computer and tapping the keys. People like to do this a lot, even though computers do not smell interesting at all. I sat under the table. I couldn't smell any food up there, but I'd had a lot of luck under the table in the past. I laid there patiently, but got up when Dad opened the door and walked in. I wagged and pawed his leg, and he petted me. Getting a full dog greeting is probably one of the things humans like best about walking in the door, so I make sure everyone in the family knows they are loved as soon as they get home. What are you looking at? Dad asked as he gave Mom a kiss. Mom laughed softly. I told you about those pigs we just rescued, remember? They're so cute, Dad, Maggie Rose called out from the living room. So I asked the manager who'd called me to send over his surveillance tapes so I could figure out how the pigs wound up inside an interstate truck stop, Mom went on. Okay, watch this. Maggie Rose went over to look at Mom's computer too. She giggled and Dad laughed, so I wagged. The two of them just walked up to the doors like they had an appointment, Dad marveled. That's amazing. Where'd they come from? That's the mystery, Mom said. Watch, here's another angle showing the entire parking lot. I yawned sleepily, wondering if we'd all play something more exciting soon. I gnawed on Maggie Rose's shoelace just to pass the time. Okay, see, Mom continued. We've got the parking lot, plus just a little bit of the interstate on the other side. Now watch. I looked up curiously when Maggie Rose gasped. Wait, what just happened? Dad said. First there were no pigs, and then all of a sudden, there they were at the truck stop. Mom turned and looked at him. I know, it's as if they appeared by magic. I don't think they crossed that highway, but what else can explain it? And how would they have gotten onto the highway in the first place? I figured they must be from a farm in the area, but I checked and there are no hog farms anywhere nearby, so that's not it. Yet, these little girls are babies. No way they came from miles away. I'm stumped, Dad admitted. I don't know what to think. Well, either way, they're here now. Those piglets are going to wake up very hungry. I've already told our supplier that we need a lot of goat milk. You're telling me they eat like pigs? Dad said with a chuckle. I wagged at the laughter. I'm telling you that every 2 hours, 24 hours a day for at least the next several days, Mom replied. Every 2 hours, all night long? Are you serious? Welcome to Animal Rescue, she said. I'll help, Maggie Rose said eagerly. Mom smiled. I know you will, sweetie, but we're going to need the whole family to make this work. Huh? Actually, Dad replied, I was thinking of driving up to Evergreen to see if I can spot that black bear people have been talking about. Oh, really? Mom said. You're going to do that and also help feed the pigs? Dad answered slowly. I sort of thought that if I wasn't here, you'd be the one to feed them all night. Do you remember, James, Mom responded lightly, when I had to get up in the middle of the night to be with our newborn babies? You said you couldn't do it because it was the mom's job. Why do I get the feeling you're never going to let me forget that? Dad replied. Maggie Rose giggled. Mom reached into a bag on the table next to her and pulled out 2 glass bottles. Well, she said cheerfully, I've decided that feeding pigs is a dad's job. Dad picked up one of the glass bottles and held it with a funny look on his face while Maggie Rose laughed so hard she fell down. And I got to jump on her and lick her face and chew on her hair. At last we were playing something fun. So who's in charge of taking care of the little piggies? And I wonder how they got to that truck stop, rest stop. Nobody knows. Well, maybe we'll find out in the next chapter. I'll see you next time.